how about the rest of you? Have some thoughts to add to Carlos's very eloquent evaluation? Heather?
To touch on what Carlos said about he felt that the big boomingness was missing. I liked the variation where, your voice was soft and slow to add drama in that sense, and it became big and bold at other times. And I thought to kind of counter the calm, it would also be good to hear speeding up and excitement whenever that comes into the story, just to bring some other emotions. But it was hard to find criticisms with your speech, so well done.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, so Henry's voice tends to be that slower side, so I think that's a really interesting point of incorporating also the quick part.
Right.
Unlike some of us who speak quickly all the time and need to work on the slower side, both sides are always good to have together.
I like that idea. I haven't thought of it. I would like to elaborate. There was this part in the speech when the Pee-wee was playing, and he missed, and that is the moment when the drama builds up. So that will be the moment to speak.
Good point. Jim?
Yeah, Henry, I've heard you speak already in the past, but I thought you could have done a little bit more stage setting. I don't know if everybody in the room here knew that you grew up in, I think it's Jamaica, or where?
No, Trinidad.
Trinidad, okay. That would have helped set the stage why you didn't have all of the great equipment and so forth. And then when you actually talked about the equipment, we can kind of relate what you were talking about. I like the stories that you had to demonstrate what was going on in this game and how it went from the fact that you had limited materials and you went up to kind of the big time with the uniforms and all the rest of that. That was good. But I lost in the end there the bridge between the likeness of the game itself and the game of life. I'd like to have heard a little bit more demonstration of how the baseball analogy is to the game of life, some associations. So if we'd have had that, I thought it would have been much better and most effective, but it was really, really good.
Thank you. I have a couple notes on that point about the setting the stage and that it was Trinidad and not here. I think you said grabbing stuff to make a ball. I think most Americans would find that pretty foreign. Yeah. And so I know you did mention we were pouring up, we didn't have enough money to afford a bat, but maybe saying that it was somewhere else would help a mostly American audience who probably grew up with enough to find a ball or something like that. And there were a couple other little details that kind of niggled at me, and I know, I think you've said before, don't leave questions in the audience's, make them thinking about questions. One of them was the professor seemed like a weird character. I didn't know if it was an adult that was playing with you, or if it was a kid that you nicknamed the professor. And then if you were that young, before Little League could come and so on, for him to say you have to spend 10,000 hours practicing at something just seems like kind of a weird thing. And maybe it's because it's been brought up recently in a couple books that people talk about. But it seems like something that a kid in Trinidad that you were playing ball with wouldn't have said.
That's why it's not said in Trinidad.
Oh, so, all right. So maybe you kind of took some liberties, yeah. So maybe that's part of it, is that maybe I was picturing things that you didn't say. But it seemed a weird character to me.
I would like to counterpoint the setting up in Trinidad. There is a lot that's very relatable about it, and I would say if you set it in a foreign place that we cannot relate to, then we detach. So maybe making a ball out of mud is not something I can't relate to that, but the broomstick I can totally relate to. So maybe if you leave out details that are not universal and leave the universal part in there, you don't need to.
Right, that's true. You did talk about America's pastime, so I guess you were trying to definitely relate it to the current audience.
You just said something that triggered a thought in my mind. When you said the ball was made out of waste, I pictured in my mind somebody went into a trash can and took waste paper. Is that the kind of waste you're talking about?
Yeah.
Because you said mud.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, maybe you're talking about some other kind of waste. It was waste paper or something.
Yeah.
I thought you did an awesome job, and particularly the fact that it was almost impromptu. and you always used your pauses so effectively, but there were a couple of places where it was obvious that you were struggling for your next thought. So your pauses were almost too long, and it seemed almost painful to watch you. Oh my God,
What next?
what's my next thing? And the other uncomfortableness that I had, may have just been me, but I felt like you were looking at me disproportionately personally.
Yeah, I definitely on this side of the room.
And I kind of felt like, oh my God, why doesn't he look at somebody else sometimes? So I got uncomfortable a little bit after a while.
Interesting.
Too much eye contact.
It's tough when you have a small audience,
Yeah.
huh, and making eye
Somebody
contact
else
with everyone.
complains they're not being looked at.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Yeah, interesting. All right, any others? That's a hit, everybody. All right, well, thank you all for your participation in our evaluation of our speakers. I think it's always fun when we can all chime in and give some thoughts, and even some debating going on in our feedback. It's just kind of cool. Because it does show how different people will have different ideas, and so it's what's nice about getting feedback from all the different people in the audience, is you can really figure out what worked and what didn't work for people.
In terms of some of the grammar that I really liked, when Henry was talking about the joy that the boys felt when they got their uniforms and so forth, and shouted, he says, shouted as a chorus. My mind went to, wow, this is pretty powerful and pretty deep.